Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's journey through Torah. As we go through the cycles, we start to see it really is relevant for our lives. Yahweh really knew what he was doing when he gave us his word. And understand that when he was doing so, he gave us his word for us to learn his character, to learn his ways, to learn what he desires for us. He said these are paths of life, paths of blessing, ways that he desires for us to live. And so as we walk in his ways, there is a walking with him in relationship that goes with that. We talked about redemption, we talked about being redeemed, but now we're learning how to walk in his ways. We're learning about this relationship and covenant that Yahweh has called us into. And Ki Tisa is a parsha that's really packed full of a lot of different things that we could talk about. We could talk about the census, the half shekel. We could talk about the golden calf. We could talk about Moshe and the cleft of the rock. We could talk about the attributes of Yahweh, the different characters of Yahweh. And traditionally, it's reckoned as 13 different attributes of Yahweh that he reveals himself to Moshe. There's a lot we can get into in this parsha. But where I want to focus today is Moshe and his intercession for the people of Israel. And we're going to have to kind of severely cut to the chase so that we can continue on. The story, go back and as you read through the Parsha, you find we are at Mount Sinai, we're in the wilderness, and the people of Israel have been brought out of Mitzrayim, and here they are, they're at the foot of the mountain, hearing his voice, hearing his words. And the people said, all that Yahweh has said, we will do, we will be obedient. And Moshe goes back up to the mountain to continue to hear the voice of Yahweh. Because you remember, the people said, we can't bear to hear the voice of Yah anymore. Moshe, you go talk to Yahweh, find out what he says, and you tell us, and then we'll listen to you, right? So Moshe goes up on the mountain, and then we find the people of Israel start getting restless. Well, it's been 40 days. We don't know what's happened to Moses, right? How quickly we forget, how quickly we lose sight, quite literally, of what is important. They didn't have to see Moses literally right there to know that Yahweh was still leading them. I mean, were they following Moshe? Were they following Yahweh? They were following Yahweh, and they still saw the cloud. They still saw the smoke. They still knew that his presence was there on Sinai, and yet they still doubted. They're like, okay, well, is we don't know what's happened to Moses, so Aaron, make us gods to go before us, right? And so, the story, Aaron says, no, I didn't make the calf. I threw these things in the fire, and out came this calf. And wow, not getting into that today, but Moshe takes it upon himself to intercede for the people of Israel. There were those who I'm sure were unrepentant in that time. And we read because of the idolatry, which is equated with adultery. We know that at Mount Sinai, Yahweh was proclaiming, this is his bride, this is his people. And this was a betrothal ceremony that was happening at the mountain with the contract, the ketubah, the writing contract, the oaths, the blessings, the covenant. I mean, all these things are different parts of a marriage. And so he was betrothing his bride here. And then in the midst of all this going on, his bride starts searching for another husband, so to speak, a golden calf. So idolatry is equated with adultery. And many people lost their lives that day, right? Because Moshe says, who is going to stand up for Yahweh? And the Levites stood up. And then all those who were involved in the sin of the golden calf, all those who were involved in worshiping this golden calf, they died that day. And we read it was about 3,000, which not fully getting into that right now. But as you read through the story, you see that all Israel was given the test for the unfaithful bride that we find in the book of Numbers. Okay, and those who were unfaithful was about 3,000. So it's not all Israel who was worshiping this golden calf. There's always a people within a people who are stirring up and causing trouble. It's never the whole people, but yet at the same time, the whole of the people suffers when the groupings start raising up and causing trouble and doing things, right? So anyway, Moshe goes and he goes to intercede with Yahweh. Okay, and let's pick up there in Exodus 32, verse 32 to 34. Says, "Now if you will just forgive their sin, but if you won't, then I beg you, blot me out of your book which you have written." And Adonai answered Moshe, "Those who have sinned against me are the ones I will blot out from my book. Now go and lead the people to the place that I told you about. My angel will go ahead of you. Nevertheless, the time for punishment will come, and then I will punish them for their sin." So we see here that Moshe is interceding. He says, please, forgive your people. He's asking for forgiveness. And we know that, like I said, some didn't repent and they had suffered for that. But then there were others who I believe were waiting to see and what needed to happen. What was the right thing to do from this point forward, right? And Moshe is saying, please forgive your people. And Yahweh is saying, I'm not going to go with you into the land. You continue to lead them in. And this was actually an act of mercy, in my opinion, because if the people are going to continue to be involved in idolatry with Yahweh right there with them, they wouldn't be able to stand as well. Okay, and Yahweh is saying the people need to learn to do this before I can fully have that relationship and be with them. Okay, so Moshe again is interceding, and there's this conversation that's going on. Let's look at Exodus 33:15. So Moshe says, "If your presence doesn't go with us, then don't make us go from here." And Adonai said to Moshe, "I will also do what you have asked me to do, because you have found grace in my sight, and I know you by name." That's a beautiful thing. And again, understand the intercession or the prayers of one person can make a big difference. Here Moshe is saying, if you don't go with us, then don't lead us from this place at all. We don't want to go if you don't come with us, which is quite an important statement, isn't it? And I think we all need to come to that place in our life where we're saying, Yahweh, wherever I'm supposed to go, I don't want to go if you're not with me in it, right? And then we need to have that discernment to follow him wherever he is leading, because we don't want to go where he isn't. But then he says that I have done as you have said, and you have found grace in my sight. Wow. To be in that relationship with Yahweh that Moshe was, this intimacy in this relationship, Yahweh said, I will do as you have asked, because we have this relationship, because I am extending my grace to you, and because you are asking for it. And I know you by name. That's an amazing thing. I know you by name. That's relationship. That's literally walking in this place of covenant with him. He hears you. He knows you intimately, personally. But that doesn't mean that we can't turn our backs on him, because we need to continue to walk with him personally and individually, but also as a group, as a whole of the people of Israel. And Moshe is saying, please go with us. And Moshe even goes to say, show me your face, right? I don't just want to know the things that you do for us, the things you do on our behalf, your great and mighty works. They're amazing. Your mighty right hand, it's amazing. But I want to know you intimately. I want to see you face to face. Well, let's keep going. Exodus 34:9. So he says, "If now I have found favor in your sight, O Lord, please let the Lord go in the midst of us, for it is a stiff-necked people, and pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for your inheritance." And he said, "Behold, I am making a covenant before all your people. I will do marvels such as have not been created in all the earth or in any nation. And all the people among whom you are shall see the work of Yahweh, for it is an awesome thing that I will do with you." So what's going on here? What's really happening? What is the context of what's being said here? So we know that when Moshe came down the mountain, he was carrying the tablets of testimony, right? What did he do with them? He smashed them. Because when the bride was unfaithful, the ketubah, the contract, was broken, and the writings on the tablets was the contract, if you will, for the bride, for the wedding ceremony, the vows. Okay, these are the things that were given to uphold this place of covenant that we would have in relationship with one another, right? So let's keep going. The context of this prior verse is the second set of tablets that is after the golden calf. So there wasn't just one set of tablets, was there? No, there was a second set of tablets that we read were exactly like the first, with one exception. See, the first set of tablets, Yahweh carved out the stone and handed them to Moshe and wrote on these tablets. With his own finger, he wrote on these stone tablets. Well, in the second set of tablets, Yahweh tells Moshe, I want you to cut these stone tablets now. You bring me your stone tablets, and I will write the same words that I gave on the first on the second. So the words did not change. What changed? See, Yahweh gave us the tablets in the first place. We broke that. We did not keep it. Therefore, Moshe broke them. So in more ways than one, they were broken. But now it's being reaffirmed with the second set of tablets that Moshe brings on behalf of the people. So again, Yahweh is saying, you bring me your stone tablets and I will write on those. The same word, by the way. So I'm submitting to you here, we'll cover this in just a second, that the stone tablets represent the heart of the people. Because when we turned away from Yahweh, our hearts become stone, becomes callous. But yet when we turn back to him, our hearts become soft and pliable, and he writes his word, engraves his word on our heart, and thereby we're learning to walk in his ways. Okay? Like David said, your word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against you. But what's happening here is that the people, they lost sight of what was important. And so they made this golden calf. Okay, so let's talk about that for just a second. The word for golden calf is egel, the word, and egel is the word for the calf, and masacha is the word for molten. But masacha can also be a veil or a covering. Isaiah 25:7 is used in this context. He says, and he will destroy in his mountain the face of the covering cast over all the people, and the veil that is spread over all the nations. Again, this word here for veil is hamasecha. Mesecha is the same word used for molten, which is the same word used in the golden calf. This idea is that it's a veil of something. It's something that is covering over. So the people, they lost sight of Yahweh and Moshe and lost sight of what was important. That's why Scripture says we're not led by what we see, right? Walk by faith, not by sight. And when they went into the land to explore the land, to tour the land, they were moved by what they saw, not by what they knew the word was supposed to be. So again, don't be led by just what you see. Continue in what Yahweh is giving as his word for us to walk in and to be obedient. It's like, well, it's been 40 days already. Isn't something going to happen? Well, yeah, something's going to happen. You need to continue to prepare yourself and continue to do the last things that he had told you to do. I mean, they were given the instructions for the tabernacle. They were being told on how this was going to play out. He told them, I'm going to give you my word and walk in these ways. And they said, all that Yahweh has said, we will do. We will be obedient. Na'aseh v'nishma, right? We will do and we will hear and be obedient. And then soon as it's out of sight, it's like out of sight, out of mind. And then they started doing this golden calf. Ephraim Frank says something pretty neat about this. He says, here the backsliding Israelites who were so desperate to see with their eyes, get it? They were trying to see with their eyes. They couldn't see Moshe, so they wanted something that they could see. So what happens is they actually suffer a loss of sight as they are blindfolded by a masacha, by a veil of their own making. In other words, they were so driven and so desired to have something they could see right in front of them that they fabricated it instead of just listening to what Yahweh is wanting to do. You ever want something so bad that you see something not really the way you should? You see what you want to see, or you hear what you want to hear. When we're in experiences, we kind of filter what we are seeing and hearing and experiencing through either what we want to see and hear and experience, or based on our past experiences as well, right? So Yahweh gave these tablets to Moshe because he broke the ketubah of the covenant. Now Yahweh says, you bring me your tablets and I will write on those. I will write on your tablets. Okay? So here, I want to get to a time commentary. It's pretty interesting here. Yahweh says to bring me your tablets and I will write on those. And it's Exodus 31:18 where it says he finished, because it says he gave to Moses when he had finished speaking with him on Mount Sinai the 2 tablets of the testimony, tablets of stone written with the finger of God. So this is what I want to address. It says when he had finished speaking to him, he gave him back these tablets. And like I said, I'm going to share with you from the Etz Chaim Torah and commentary based on Exodus 31:18. And so it says, and he had finished. Okay, this word and finish is what I'm going to read a commentary on. So the Midrash notes the similarity of the Hebrew for he finished kalato and his bride, and the word for his bride, kalato, suggesting that when Moses received the Torah, he was as joyous as a bridegroom on his wedding day. The metaphor of giving the Torah as a solemnizing a marriage between God and the Jewish people, with the Torah serving as the marriage document, the ketubah, occurs frequently in the Midrash. So does the metaphor of Israel's disobedience being like a marital infidelity rather than simply the breaking of a law. So again, here's another picture of the bride and his people. Okay, it's just another similarity in there, because it says, and he finished speaking to him, kaloto, and the word for his bride, kalato, spelled exactly the same way. Pronunciation is different. Again, we're talking about context and how these words are given together. Okay, and again, let's take a look at this. 2 Corinthians 3:3. For as much as you are manifestly declared to be the epistle of the Messiah ministered by us, written not with ink, but the Spirit of the living God, not in tables of stone, but in what? Fleshy tables of the heart. So we have the comparison of the tablets of stone and the tablet that is your heart. Interesting. Let's take a look at this. Exodus 34:1, where it says the tables, the word is luach. Luach, and it means to listen, or a tablet, and that could be stone, wood, or metal, board, plate, whatever it is, but it's a tablet of some sort. And luach is also the same word for calendar. So here is this. The tablets of our heart with the word written on them should follow Yahweh's appointment book. It should follow his appointments. You ever set a date night, with your spouse? Do you ever set a date night? Yahweh has set dates for us to be with him and to spend time with him and to continue to develop that relationship that we have with him. And these are these things that we learn as we continue to go on. He's writing on your heart his word. He's not changing his word. He's not changing who he is, but he is changing who you are. He knows you by name, and he's calling you into a place of covenant with him. Okay, Proverbs 7:1-3 says, my son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with you. Keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of your eye. Bind them upon your fingers and write them on the table or the tablet of your heart. See that? So again, we have the idea that the heart, something's going to be written on your heart. Let's make sure that it is a word from Yahweh, his word that is profitable for us, that we bring our tablets to him. Let him write on them. We're not trying to write our own story. We're letting Yahweh write our story, and we're walking with him in that, right? So Exodus 34, we see the second set of tablets. So Yahweh says to Moshe, so cut 2 tablets of stone like the first, and I will write on these tablets, your heart, the words that were in the first tablets which you broke. So it says, I will write on these tablets. A word for write is kotev, past being katav. Katav literally means to engrave. Okay, it means to. So how does writing mean engrave? Well, understand, to write in a tablet of stone, you're not just putting ink on a feather, or on a quill, or on a whatever, and just trying to write. No, you are literally engraving into the stone. And so when you're engraving into the stone, you are removing from the stone the things that you don't want to be there, so it reveals the word. And the same thing with us. When we are coming to Yahweh and he writes his word on our heart, he's pulling the things out that he doesn't want to be there. And what is left is his word and a heart that is renewed, right? Much like a plant that you prune, a tree that you prune, it's much like that process, because in the process of life, our hearts can get hard. It's just a fact, right? Our hearts can get hard. Our hearts can get cold. Things can happen. And we need to come back to Yahweh, return to him, and let him continue to engrave those words in our heart just a little bit deeper, right? So the words of the covenant, Deuteronomy 9, 10, and 11 says, Yahweh delivered unto me 2 tablets of stone written with the finger of God, and on them was written according to all the words which Yahweh spoke with you in the mountain out of the midst of the fire of the assembly. And it came to pass at the very end of 40 days and 40 nights that Yahweh gave me the 2 tablets of stone. Look at this, even the tablets of covenant. See that? The tablets of covenant, they represent your heart. Okay, the tablet that is covenant. See, once these were given to Israel and they were put in the ark, they were called we call it the Ark of the Covenant, right? When the tablets were put in the ark, they're called the Ark of Testimony, because that was the testimony, the tablets that were put in it. That is our testimony. The testimony is that his word is being written on our heart, and that is how we now live. We learn to live in him. Ezekiel 11, 19 and 21 says, And I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you, and I will take the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give them a heart of flesh. Why? That they may walk in my statutes, keep my ordinances, and do them. And they shall be my people, and I will be their God. Verse 21, But as for them whose heart walks after the heart of their detestable things and their abominations, I will recompense their way upon their own heads, says the Lord God. Again, when we come to him, he's going to write his word on our heart and change us, right? It's not that we come to him and we fashion and mold him into what we want him to be. No, let's not come to Yahweh and make him a golden calf. Because remember, that was part of the problem, right? That when they fashioned this golden calf, they said, "This is your Elohim. This is that led you out of Egypt." And then Aaron proclaims, he says, "Tomorrow, let's have a feast to Yahweh here." And what's happening is they are making Yahweh something they can see and fathom right there within them, and they're worshiping the way they want to for him. No, Yahweh is calling us to change. He's calling us to take on his character, to take on his life, not to just say, I serve God, and then to do whatever we want, and have no idea or no desire to walk in his ways. Okay, so let's keep going. Jeremiah 31. Verses 33 and 34 says, This shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yahweh. I will put my Torah in their inward parts, and I will write it. Yeah, the word is katav. I will write it in their hearts. Then we see this, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Verse 34, And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh. For they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, says Yahweh. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. Look at Isaiah 8. Isaiah 8, 13 to 16 says, Sanctify Yoetzavaot himself, and let him be your fear, let him be your dread. And he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling and for a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, for a gin and for a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many among them shall stumble and fall and be broken and be snared and be taken. But look at verse 16. Bind up the testimony, seal the Torah among my disciples. This word for seal the Torah among my disciples, and yes, literally it says Torah, but the word there for seal my Torah among is blimudai. The word is lamad. Lamad is the word that we also see to learn, or for a student, or for talmidim, right, for a disciple. But it says to seal up the Torah among, or in my disciples. So what he's saying literally, that at the beginning of it means in. So seal up the Torah in my disciples. So where's the Torah supposed to be? Within a disciple of the Most High. If you're a disciple of Yahweh, if you're a disciple of Yeshua, you are to have the Torah written on your heart. Let's go down in here again. Deuteronomy 8:20. To the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. Wow. So we need to learn what is light. What is life? The light is the word of the living God. And so we need to have his light within us, right? Okay. back to the mountain. Let's go back to Moshe at the mountain. And we go to Exodus 34, 6 through 8. It says, And Yahweh passed by before his face, and he called about Yahweh, Yahweh, Elohim, merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and great in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and not leaving entirely unpunished, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on sons and the sons of sons to the third and the fourth generation. And Moses hurried and bowed down to the earth, and he worshipped. So there's a lot going on here. He's making proclamations as he's going before Moshe. And what I want to look at here really quick is the word for keeping mercy. The word keeping is what I'm going to look at here. The word is natzar, right? Different depending on how you're looking at. But natzar means to guard or to protect, to obey or to preserve or observe. It's also the word for a watchman. So if we look, the word preserve means to watch over, to guard or protect, a keeper. And we also see this nun that was there as the enlarged and lowered. This nun that's enlarged in the Torah text is to show us life, or the quickening of life. He says, I extend life to you, and I will guard and keep and protect it. As I am keeping mercy, I am preserving your life and quickly giving it to you. Okay, Psalm 107:1 says, Give thanks to Yahweh, for he is good, and his mercy endures forever. So what do we do with this? I mean, Moshe was interceding. We see this as an example of one of how we should pray for others, in intercession, but also for ourselves, right? You commonly hear something like the sinner's prayer, right? Well, Moshe gives us an example of this in the interaction he has here with Yahweh. He's saying, acknowledgement, we have sinned, but also asking for mercy and asking for forgiveness, and also a change of ways. We will go before you. We will go with you, but you've got to come with us in that, right? And so that's an acknowledgement of changing our ways and learning to follow him and all that. So what do we do with this? Learn to live in it. Learn to walk in it, okay? Mark 11:25 and 26 says, Whenever you stand praying, forgive, if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also who is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father who is in heaven forgive your trespass. So how do we walk this out? How do we learn to do this? It is a process, isn't it? Some days are easier than others, right? But ultimately, we do have to reconcile this within ourselves, that we will forgive because we know Yahweh is forgiving us, right? And we need to learn to exhibit his character in our life, right? So two things I want to point out. One, Mark 12:30 says, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first commandment. Very much like Deuteronomy 6:4, right? Hear, Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your might, right? Could it possibly be Yeshua may have been quoting from Deuteronomy 6? Yeah, quite possibly, right? Let's look at Deuteronomy 10. Verses 12 and 13 it says, And now, Israel, what does Yahweh your God require of you? But to fear Yahweh your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, and to serve Yahweh your God with all your heart and all your soul, to keep the commandments of Yahweh and his statutes, which I command you this day for your good. Micah 6:8 says, He has shown you, O man, what is good and what Yahweh requires of you, but to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Do these two scriptures contradict? No, they're both talking about the same thing, right? So that was the one thing, to love your God. What's the second? Mark 12:31. And the second is namely this, You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is none other commandment greater than these things, which was quoting from Leviticus 19. So we find this forgiveness that's going in together to love the Lord our God and to love our neighbor. And this is what should have been done at the mountain, right? When Moshe went back up to continue hearing the voice of Yahweh, the people should have continued loving one another, learning to walk with one another, while they were learning to hear the voice of the Father, right? And however they needed to hear that, whether it was from Yahweh himself or from Moshe. Either way, to hear the voice of Yahweh, they had to learn to do that, and then learn to walk with one another. One more thing before we call this done for today. 1 John 4:19-21. We love him because he first loved us. If a man say, I love God, and he hates his brother, he is a liar. For he that loves not his brother whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he has not seen? And this commandment we have from him, that he who loves God love his brother also. Check that out. How can you say that you love God who you haven't seen when you don't love your brother who you have seen? Now, think about this for a second. Here they are, they're at the mountain, Mount Sinai, and they heard the voice of God. They didn't see him. They heard the voice of God. And they said, we can't stand to hear the voice anymore. So Moses, you go find out what he says. Moses went to go find out what he says, and we're like, we can't see what's going on. We can't see, so we're going to fall into, we're going to digress and go in our own ways. This is what we're being warned about. To love God is to follow him, even if you're not hearing his voice right now. Continue in what he has given you already. Continue in what he has already expressed to you. Continue in what you already have. And learn to walk in his ways. Learn to walk with one another in that until you start hearing his voice again. Sometimes the Father is just wanting us to do the last thing that he told us to do before he's giving us something else. Sometimes we just need to be faithful to do what he says because he's going to equip us for what's coming down the road. Either way, we need to just learn to listen to his voice. And in the midst of that, when we do mess up, we do have an advocate. But we need to come to him and say, forgive me. We have sinned. I have sinned. Forgive me and show me what you desire for me to walk in. And sometimes, like I said, it's continuing to walk in what he's already given us and already done for us. So we need to grow in that. We need to grow in the discernment that we have. We need to grow in our love for him, because we genuinely need to seek him out above everything else. And as we do that, then we will learn how to love and to walk with one another. Okay? So again, I pray these teachings, these Torah portions, I pray that they challenge you. I pray that they encourage you. And I pray they're a blessing to you. Okay? So keep in it, be faithful, and may the Lord bless you and keep you. Until next time, Shalom.